Hey guys, I'm Goscalyon, and today I'm going to show you a castle I built in survival over the past few months. Somehow, when I get started with building in survival, I always get drawn to mountains and want to build a castle, but most of the times I never really finish the build. This time, however, I wanted to actually finish it and show the result. So why don't you join me for a tour? Before we start the tour, however, let me show you what it looked like before I started building. What initially drew me to this place is the natural lake with an overhanging mountain. Most of the overhanging mountain had to be removed to make room for the castle itself. But the lake is a very important feature of the castle now. One thing I didn't want to remove is the naturally grown oak tree. This has been here from the start and is sort of the only thing I didn't touch. Alright, enough looking at the past. Let's look at the present and show you around. There is two ways of getting into the castle. We are currently looking at the main entrance at which we arrive from the ocean here through the gate. I created a dock here with some trading stands along with a very small storage area behind me. This is all for trading or transport into the castle. I wanted to have this area be very lush, and so I added custom trees and lots of plants all around the lake. The other side of the dock leads towards the tower, some animal farms, and a storage house. If you remember from the original picture, the storehouse was one of the first things I built. However, I did give it a bit of an overhaul with some bricks and some more detail on the side. The animal farms were also something I had going from very early on, but was one of the last things I actually updated. I really enjoyed using the combination of mud and coarse dirt to make the ground seem a bit dirtier. Same goes for the chicken coop and the sheep barn, all of them using the same texturing on the floor. I kept the barns pretty simple and small because this size felt right. I also decided to put the cow barn one block higher than the sheep barn so that the natural flow of the land would show a height difference in the buildings. I also terraformed the entire hill and made it more steep than it was originally. I'm bringing in a combination of stone, andesite, tuff, cobble, mossy cobble and moss blocks. I then decorated it with some trees and bushes to make it more lush. For the pig pen, I added some spruce buttons and waterlogged spruce blocks along with mud and dirt for a wetter look. And lastly, I added a small shelter. I also wanted to connect this path onto the wall here for easy access. Then, up the steep path, we get to the farmer's house. I haven't done many interiors, so for this entire build, I loved to experiment with them. My favorite thing has to be the fireplace. Nothing too crazy for the rest of the interior. For the exterior, I wanted to use the deep slate that I've been using for the castle as part of the roofs for these buildings. But I also really liked the look of mud brick, mud, and andesite for the walls. And lastly, using the smooth sandstone to finish it off, since that's one of the lighter tones that I've used a lot in the castle's interior, as you'll see later. Then, we get to the fountain in front of the blacksmith. For this building, I used mostly the same elements. However, I did decide to use copper for the roof here to make it stand out as a different type of building. And the metal block seemed appropriate for a blacksmith. The interior has got some storage and a little workshop downstairs, and upstairs it has a nice bedroom and also a very nice view out of the tower. I wanted to add lots of trees around this area specifically to help break up the repetitive nature of the walls. And then finally we come up to the main entrance. So let's go ahead and check out the interior of the castle. We enter the castle into the main hall and throne room. My main goal with this room was to make it seem very open, and I added some campfires for some extra movement. To the sides we can go up to the balcony and have a nice view outside. However, this won't be the last time I mention that. To the right side of the main hall we have a small corridor leading to a room containing maps. This here is the most recent one, and this map is before we did most of the outdoor section. Back towards the main hall, we have a connection to the towers, and lastly a connection to the mines and the lake, going through an open cave. This section is probably one of my favorite sections, and I really enjoyed making this lush cave, using basalt woven into the mix along with the other types of rocks. Then, going further down to the mines, I sprinkled the area with lots of buttons and pressure plates for different depths, and for lighting I added lanterns in the small crevices, and finally I've hidden away some water above rock sections to have water dripping down. The other way down leads to the lake, which I transformed using many glowberries to provide plenty of light in this otherwise dark cave. Back to the main hall, we also have a connection to the left, but once again we have access to the towers, and on the other side we have a connection to a sanctuary for a few of my axolotls. Continuing down the big hallway, we get to one of the only automated farms I decided to make, the sugarcane farm. At the very end of this long hallway, we get to the main spiral staircase, and at the bottom of it, a cellar. Going up the staircase, the first connection immediately is a small hallway with the second entrance to the building. Outside, I added a wooden cart and a bunch of pitcher pots, which I think really look colorful and it helps stand out against all of the gray tones of the castle. Then, past some of the trees, there is a gate outside of the castle, which leads us to a sniffer farm alongside a short path I created with some more custom trees. This path also leads to where I've been cutting down the many spruce trees. Going back over the road, you can have a view from the side of the castle. For the side of the building, I wanted to introduce a few different elements, mainly the stripped spruce and tough blocks. I combined them with the already existing deep slate and iron fences, and only having a little bit of stone brick on the sides made these stand out a bit more compared to the towers and front of the castle. The front of the castle walls can sometimes feel a little repetitive. I have been learning and improving my building as I continued with this build, and I even have some ideas on how to improve it in the future. Then, back into the castle, on the right here there is one of the least detailed rooms, where I have a few armor stands and a very simple nether portal. This is more like a functional room. Maybe one day I'll get to actually detailing this, but I didn't really know what to do with it for now, so that's where I'll leave it. As we continue up the staircase, we go up to the alchemy room, where potions are to be brewed. I really liked adding these hanging roots in here. Then, even further up brings us to the floor with the kitchen and the dining room. The kitchen to our left. I liked that the campfire smoke actually goes through the smoker block, and I also added some cutters for some more movement. I used the rails on a piston as sort of a cutting board, and then behind the kitchen there is a very cramped storage room with lots and lots of boxes. Then to the outside we have a connection to one of the outside platforms and to the towers, where of course you can get a lovely view from as well. Along the side of the castle there is lots of viewing options, so let me know which one is your favorite. I also realized I haven't mentioned the braziers on top of the walls before, but I liked having these campfires all over the castle and the walls. It adds some life and lighting to it. Then, continuing further, we have the dining room. I added a big table with some food, some light, some plants, and of course some cats. For the ceiling, I played around with a couple of combinations, but I ended up with the spruce log supports and deep slate on the ceiling, to bring in some elements I've been using before. Back to the staircase, near the top, we get to the bedroom floor, with first up, the major bedroom. Of course with cats, including my very own cat Sushi, and of course, a very nice view outside. To the opposite of the large bedroom, there is a big hall with a seating area and several smaller bedrooms, or like guest rooms. Each of these has their own small window, and this room also connects to a separate balcony with a seating area and a view. The other side, however, also connects to a corner of the castle that opens up with a small bridge and a garden. In this garden we have a small pond with beautiful fish, a bench under a tree, and lastly a cozy area with a campfire and logs to sit on. For the longest time I didn't know what to do with this corner of the castle, but I really liked how it turned out. Back inside we can use these ladders to climb our way into the castle's library. I wanted this library to have lots of height to it, with many smaller platforms along the side. It even has a small balcony, although it doesn't give the prettiest view. And just above the library, we can climb our way into my very small enchanting section. We can go all the way up in the tower to stand on top of the castle along with the Dutch flag at the highest point. Some of you might also be interested in seeing the statistics, so let's go ahead and show you that. For example, I crafted nearly 22k deep slate bricks. So let's do a final flyover and give you a proper view of the build in its totality, and I hope you enjoyed this tour. If you like this build, be sure to press that like button and subscribe to be updated with my future releases. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite part is. Next up, I will be working on creating my very first survival series, so stay tuned for that. See you next time!